Hey fan collectors, this is a video I've wanted to do for a long time. Notice that I have almost the whole run of Hunter Originals in my house installed. So I wanted to give kind of a history of the Hunter Original ceiling fan, starting from the kind of late 60s 22046 model up to what we have today. So without further ado, this is a Hunter Original model number 22046. This was probably produced sometime in the late 60s or maybe even as late as maybe 1971, 1972. What sets this apart is you see it has a trumpet canopy. This one is plastic. They were originally made in metal. Going down, we see that the bottom plate has these vent holes all the way around. It does not have a circular vent hole like some of the later fans do. And one thing that's very cool about this fan is the switch housing is cast iron. The whole thing is cast iron. It's very heavy and very thick. So it's just as tough as the top of the fan, the motor. Now this fan uses a speed coil and runs on 3 speeds. Has the 1.9 amp motor from the C17 and the R52. Now let's give it a start up on high. Now this thing kicks out a ton of air. You can see the way it starts up. It starts off kind of slow and then picks up speed faster and faster. That's something that sets it apart from the later fans that spin up quickly. This thing kind of takes its time getting there. But yeah, this is the Hunter 22046. It was produced probably sometime from the mid-60s until around 1971 or 1972. Next up is the Hunter 22206. These were produced probably from 1972 until about 1975. And a quick way to tell if it's a 22206 is if it's a painted fan with the 2-part brass and cast iron switch housing. So whereas the 22046 had cast iron all the way to the top, this splits it into just the brass part and then the cast iron part at the bottom. So this is where the oil is, and then this is where the switch housing is. So this has the same 1.9 amp motor, and it has a similar starting characteristic to the 22046 and the R52s. Has a nice whine when you start it up, and it takes a little bit of time getting up to speed, especially this one with adapt air. So let me get up close, and you can kind of hear the whine it makes when it starts up. Kind of a cool sound. Blades are kind of noisy on this one. But yeah, when these were being made, Hunter was still not really in the residential market. These were kind of the awkward years between when you would see these in department stores and when you would see these in homes. The energy crisis of the late 70s had not yet quite hit, so these Hunter fans were still kind of limited in residential applications. Now that changed in the late 70s, and suddenly Hunter found themselves being quite a bit more popular, and people were looking for their fans to help circulate air, be able to set their thermostats a little bit higher and save energy. So Hunter took that angle. They started producing their fans kind of more with a residential angle to them. They offered brass finishes and chrome finishes in the 70s, these cane blades. And this is the first time that a new motor came out. This is the 2.5 amp motor, and this addresses one of the criticisms of the 1.9 amp motor, which is the slow startup time. So if I start this fan on high, you'll see that it gets up to speed fairly quickly. probably about half the time as the 22046 and the 22206. Has a different canopy. Here's something else. Once again, the switch housing changed. Now, for a while, just for a couple of years, they had a plastic switch housing, but this being a brass fan in 1980 has a pot metal switch housing, which they still use today. But yeah, basically you no longer have any cast iron in the switch housing. Also, this bottom plate now is stamped rather than cast on the brass fans. Saves a little bit of weight. Now, as these Hunter fans were getting more popular for residential use, some of the criticisms about humming and noise became apparent, so Hunter developed this isolation ring. It's basically a metal ring with rubber spacers that allow the blades to kind of float on that rubber surface and absorb some of the hum from the motor. So the result is a very quiet fan. Let's go ahead and start it up on high. Takes right off. And this has reversible blades. Unfortunately, around this time, Hunter dropped adapt air and went to what you see here, which is reverse air, whereby you adjust the pitch of each blade individually instead of all at once with a lever. This is, of course, less expensive to produce, but looks kind of ungainly and is a lot slower to actually implement. Now, by 1983, Hunter was pretty popular for residential use. You commonly see fans like this in somebody's kitchen. This is a 38-inch reversible original. Now, unfortunately, after about 1984, they stopped making this size of original, went completely away. Although we sadly lost the 36-inch original in the mid-80s, we gained a new model, which is the 42-inch original. Now, unlike the other models, this one does not use a shaded pole motor. Instead, it has a stacked motor inside, the same motor that was used in the Comfort Breeze. Now, it still has oil bath lubrication, but you have a motor in this housing that's just kind of surrounded by empty space. But thankfully, this fan is still very powerful for its size and very quiet. And this particular fan is from 1989. Now, around 1985, Hunter once again changed the motor design. This particular fan is from the mid-90s, but the motor design is much the same. It uses a capacitor-controlled motor. It's much more quiet and energy efficient than the old shaded pole motor. Now, in terms of quietness and performance and reversibility, this is probably the best original there is, the 2.0 amp American-made original. And that just makes it all the more unfortunate that around 2002, Hunter stopped making this design of motor and transitioned operations to Taiwan. The fan is still made there. It looks the same, but the motor design is not as robust. The performance is not quite as powerful, but it's probably a little bit more efficient. So this has been the story and the evolution of the Hunter original ceiling fan. Thanks for watching.